Introduction: The Man in the Arena. Welcome back to Peak English. In the history of the modern world, there are men who walk quietly. They follow the rules. They stay in their lanes. They live, they work, and they fade away like footprints in the sand. And then there are the others, the ones who scream, the ones who break the furniture, the ones who set the room on fire just to see who will survive the flames. Today, we are telling the story of the most controversial, the most hated, and the most loved man on the planet. Some see him as a savior sent by God to save a nation. Some see him as a monster, a threat to democracy itself. But today, on Peak English, we are not here to vote. We are not here to debate policy. We are here to look at something much deeper. We are here to look at the human soul. How does a man endure the unendurable? How does a man wake up in the morning when half the world wants him dead? How does a man lose billions of dollars, become a national joke, and then climb back to the highest throne in the world, not once, but twice? This is the story of Donald J. Trump. But this is not the story you see on the news. The news gives you sound bites. We are going to give you the scars. We are going to take you back to a dinner table in Queens in 1955, where a father taught his sons that winning is the only thing. We are going to take you to a rainy street in Manhattan in 1990, where a billionaire realized he was poorer than a beggar. We are going to take you to a terrifying moment in Pennsylvania in 2024, where a bullet missed a man's brain by less than 1 inch. This story is long. It is detailed. It is dramatic. It is designed to help you immerse yourself in the English language, to feel the rhythm of storytelling, and to understand the vocabulary of resilience. So, turn off your notifications. Close your other tabs. Take a deep breath, because the story of the Teflon Don starts now. Part 1, The Shadow of the Father. To understand the man, you must first understand the shadow. Donald John Trump was born on June 14, 1946. But he wasn't born into the glitz and glamour of Manhattan. He was born in Queens. In New York geography, this is everything. Manhattan is the island of old money, of sophistication, of museums, and art. Queens is the borough of the worker. It is the place of bricklayers, policemen, and immigrants. It is tough. It is gritty. Donald's father was Fred Trump. Fred was not a warm man. He was a machine. He built thousands of simple houses for the working class. He didn't believe in luxury. He believed in efficiency. He believed in counting every single nail. Fred Trump had a philosophy that he drilled into his children like a religion. He would say, "You are a killer. You are a king. You are not a pawn." In the Trump house, life was a competition. Second place was the first loser. But here lies the first tragedy of Donald's life, a tragedy that shaped his entire psychology. Donald was not the oldest son. That title belonged to his brother, Fred Jr. Fred Jr. was handsome. He was kind. He was gentle. He loved to fly airplanes. He didn't want to be a killer in the real estate business. He just wanted to be a pilot. But the father, Fred Sr., relentlessly mocked him. He called him a bus driver in the sky. He bullied him for being too soft. Donald watched this. He watched his kind older brother crumble under the pressure. Fred Jr. turned to alcohol to escape the pain. He became an alcoholic, destroyed his life, and died tragically young at the age of 42. Donald, watching from the corner of the room, learned a terrifying lesson. He saw that in his father's world, you had two choices. You could be the hammer, or you could be the nail. You could be the killer, or you could be the victim. Donald decided, right then and there, that he would never, ever be Fred Jr. He would never touch alcohol, and to this day, he claims he has never had a drink, and he would never show weakness. Donald became the wild child. He was aggressive. He threw cake at birthday parties. He punched a teacher in the eye, according to family lore, because he thought the teacher didn't know anything. His father couldn't control him. So, at age 13, Fred Trump exiled Donald. He sent him to the New York Military Academy. This wasn't a private school for rich kids to play tennis. This was a place of discipline. The instructors were World War II veterans. They didn't care about Donald's money. They screamed in his face. They made him polish his shoes until he could see his reflection. They made him march in the freezing rain. Most boys hated it. Donald loved it. He realized that he thrived in chaos. He realized that if he stood up straighter than everyone else, if he shouted louder, if he acted more confident, people would follow him. He graduated as a captain. He was the ladies' man. He was the leader. He left the academy with a new armor. He had learned to hide his fear behind a mask of absolute, unshakable confidence. But Queens was too small for him. He looked across the East River at the glittering skyline of Manhattan. He saw the skyscrapers piercing the clouds. He told his father, "I'm going to conquer that." Fred laughed. "Donald, Manhattan is a shark tank. Stay here." Donald didn't listen. In 1971, he crossed the bridge. The invasion had begun. Part 2. The Concrete Jungle. We often think of New York City as a paradise of wealth. But in the 1970s, New York was a dying beast. Crime was out of control. The city was bankrupt, buildings were abandoned, the Bronx was burning. The rich were fleeing to the suburbs. Into this disaster walked a tall, 27-year-old Donald Trump. He had an old Cadillac, a cheap suit, and an ego the size of the Empire State Building. He wanted to join the Lou Club, the most exclusive social club in Manhattan. He wanted to rub shoulders with the elites, but the elites looked at him and sneered. They saw a bridge and tunnel kid. They saw a vulgar boy from Queens with a funny accent. They rejected him. This rejection fueled his fire. If they wouldn't invite him to their party, he would build his own castle and lock them out. His eyes landed on the Commodore Hotel. It was a massive, crumbling wreck next to Grand Central Station. It was filthy. It was filled with prostitutes and drug dealers. The owners were about to demolish it. Donald looked at this disaster and saw gold. He wanted to buy it and transform it into the Grand Hyatt. But he had no money. He had no reputation. This is where we see the birth of the art of the deal. Donald played a game of 4D chess. He went to the hotel owners and said, "I have the banks lined up." He didn't. He went to the banks and said, "I have the city government lined up." He didn't. He went to the city government and said, "I have the hotel owners lined up." He didn't. He bluffed. He lied. He charmed. He walked into the office of the city officials, tired, angry bureaucrats, and sold them a dream. He told them, "If you don't give me a tax break to fix this hotel, Grand Central will die, and this city will die with it." It was a performance, and it worked. He got a 40-year tax abatement, the first of its kind. He gutted the building. He covered the old brick with shiny, reflective glass. When the Grand Hyatt opened in 1980, it was a sensation. It was modern. It was glamorous. It reflected the sky. Suddenly, the kid from Queens was on the front page of the New York Times. But he wasn't done. He wanted to build something that would bear his name forever. He found a location on Fifth Avenue, the most expensive street in the world. He wanted to build the tallest, most luxurious glass tower New York had ever seen. Trump Tower. But there was a problem. A famous, beloved department store called Bonwit Teller was standing there. It was a historic building. On the front, there were two beautiful Art Deco limestone sculptures of dancing women. The Metropolitan Museum of Art said, "Donald, please, save the sculptures. We will take them." Donald looked at his schedule. Saving the sculptures would take 2 weeks of careful demolition. It would cost $500,000. Donald Trump doesn't wait. He ordered his workers, many of whom were undocumented immigrants from Poland working 12-hour shifts, to take jackhammers to the sculptures. Smash, smash, smash. The beautiful art shattered into dust. The next day, the New York press exploded. They called him a vandal, a barbarian, a man with no soul. Most businessmen would have apologized. Donald Trump smiled. He realized that attention is currency. Even hate is a form of currency. "They are writing about me," he said. "The building is famous before I even laid the first brick." When Trump Tower opened in 1983, it was unlike anything New York had seen. The atrium was 6 stories high. There was a 60-foot waterfall. Everything was pink marble and polished brass. The critics called it tacky. They said it looked like a dictator's bathroom. But the public, the tourists, they lined up around the block. They loved the gold. To them, this was what success looked like. Donald moved into the penthouse, a triplex apartment covered in 24-karat gold and diamonds, modeled after the Palace of Versailles. He was the king of New York. He was young. He was rich. He was famous. He thought he was invincible. Part 3, The Ice and the Ego. Before the fall, there was one moment that perfectly captured why people loved Donald Trump. It wasn't a skyscraper. It was an ice skating rink. In the middle of Central Park, there was the Woolman Rink. The city government of New York had been trying to fix it for 6 years. They had spent $13 million, and it still didn't work. They couldn't make ice. It was a concrete puddle. It was a symbol of government incompetence. Donald Trump looked out of his window at Trump Tower and saw this mess. It annoyed him. He wrote a letter to the mayor, Ed Koch. "Let me fix it," Trump said. The mayor laughed. "If the city can't fix it, you can't fix it." Trump said, "I will do it in 6 months. I will do it for $3 million. And if it costs more, I will pay for it myself." The mayor accepted, hoping Trump would fail and look like a fool. Donald went to work. He didn't hire consultants. He didn't form committees. He asked a simple question. Who builds the best ice rinks? The answer? Canadians. He called a Canadian ice engineering firm. He found out the city had been using the wrong gas in the cooling pipes. He ripped everything out. He poured concrete. He worked 24/7. He finished the job in 4 months. He spent only $2.25 million, under budget. And the ice was perfect. When the rink opened, the people of New York cheered. It was a miracle. This story created a legend. Trump is the guy who gets things done. It was a powerful narrative, a narrative that would one day carry him to the White House. But in the background, a cancer was growing. The cancer was ego. Donald started believing his own hype. He stopped making smart deals and started making trophy deals. He bought an airline, the Trump Shuttle. He didn't know anything about airlines. He bought the Plaza Hotel for $400 million, a price so high he could never make a profit. He bought a mega yacht called the Trump Princess. And then he went to Atlantic City. He built the Taj Mahal Casino. It was billed as the 8th wonder of the world. It was massive, it was gaudy, and to build it, Donald did something dangerous. He borrowed money at 14% interest. He personally guaranteed the loans. That meant if the casino failed, the banks could take his personal money, his houses, his cars. He was walking on a tightrope over a volcano. And in 1990, the wind blew. Part 4. The Billion-Dollar Walk of Shame. The recession of 1990 hit like a tsunami. People stopped gambling. Real estate prices crashed. The Taj Mahal Casino wasn't making enough money to pay the interest on the debt. Donald Trump wasn't just broke, he was underwater. His companies owed $3.5 billion. He personally owed $900 million. Imagine the pressure. Every morning, he woke up knowing he had to pay millions of dollars in interest that he didn't have. The phone rang constantly. It was the bankers, Citibank, Chase, Bankers Trust. The men who used to kiss his ring were now threatening to take his kingdom. There is a famous story from this dark period, a story Donald tells often because it defines his view of the world. He was walking down Fifth Avenue late at night. The rain was falling. He was with his girlfriend, Marla Maples. His marriage to his first wife, Ivana, had exploded in a humiliating public scandal. Donald saw a homeless man sitting on the wet concrete. The man had a cup with a few coins in it. He was dirty. He was freezing. Donald stopped. He stared at the man. He pointed a finger and said to Marla, "You see that man? That beggar? He is worth $900 million more than me." Marla looked at him, confused. "What do you mean?" "I mean," Donald said, "he has $0. I have negative $900 million. He is richer than I am." It was a moment of absolute clarity. The King of New York was a pauper in a gold suit. The bank summoned him to a conference room at Trump Tower. It was a humiliation ritual. Dozens of lawyers and bankers sat around a long table. They stripped him of his financial freedom. They put him on an allowance. They told him he could spend $450,000 a month for personal and business expenses. To us, that sounds like a fortune. To a man running an empire, it was a leash. They made him sell the airline. They made him sell the yacht. They made him sell the Plaza Hotel. The press smelled blood. Vanity Fair published an article asking, "Is Donald Trump finished?" People laughed at him in the streets. "Hey, Donald, got $1." Most men would have collapsed. Most men would have declared personal bankruptcy, hidden in a mansion in Florida, and disappeared from public life. Shame is a powerful weapon. It kills ambition. But Donald Trump has a superpower. It is a psychological trait that is both his greatest strength and his greatest weakness. He has no shame, and he refuses to accept reality if reality is not what he wants it to be. He fought back. He used his debt as a weapon. He told the banks, "Listen, I owe you $3 billion. If you bankrupt me, you get nothing. You get empty buildings. You lose everything. But if you keep me alive, if you give me time, I might be able to pay you back." There is an old saying, if you owe the bank $100, that's your problem. If you owe the bank $100 million, that's the bank's problem. Donald owed them $3 billion. He was the bank's problem, so they kept him alive. He worked 18 hours a day. He didn't sleep. He scraped. He clawed. He turned his name into a franchise. He stopped building and started branding. He put his name on steaks, on vodka, on ties, on mattresses, on golf courses. He realized that Trump wasn't a person anymore. It was a symbol of luxury. By the late 1990s, he had crawled out of the hole. He wasn't as rich as he said he was, but he was back. But the world had changed. He was seen as a relic of the 80s, a dinosaur. He needed a reinvention. He needed a new stage. And he found it in a little black box in every living room in America. Part 5. The Primetime President. The year is 2003. Reality TV is taking over the world. A producer named Mark Burnett had an idea. Survivor in the concrete jungle. He pitched it to Donald. "We will put contestants in a boardroom. You will be the judge. You will fire them." Donald said yes. The show was called The Apprentice. It was not just a TV show, it was a propaganda machine. The producers edited the footage carefully. In real life, Donald's casinos were struggling again. But on TV, he was a god. He sat in a high-backed leather chair. He flew in a helicopter. He spoke with absolute authority. And he delivered the catchphrase that would enter the dictionary. "You're fired." For 14 seasons, millions of Americans invited Donald Trump into their homes every Thursday night. They saw him as the ultimate boss, strong, decisive, tough, but fair. In the Midwest, in the Rust Belt, in the places where factories were closing, people watched him and thought, "We need a guy like that to run the country." He was building a political base, and he didn't even know it, but the elites still laughed at him. In 2011, Donald attended the White House Correspondents' Dinner. President Barack Obama was there. The room was full of Hollywood stars and journalists. Obama decided to roast Trump. He made fun of his reality show. He made fun of his conspiracy theories about Obama's birth certificate. He can finally get back to the issues that matter, Obama joked. Like, did we fake the moon landing? The room exploded with laughter. Seth Meyers, the comedian, mocked Trump's hair and his ego. The camera zoomed in on Donald's face. He wasn't laughing. His jaw was tight. His eyes were cold. He sat perfectly still while hundreds of people laughed at him. Many historians believe that this was the moment. In that room, humiliated by the establishment, Donald Trump decided he wasn't just going to be a TV star anymore. He was going to burn their house down. He was going to take their job. Part 6. The Golden Escalator to the White House. June the 16th, 2015. Donald and Melania Trump descended the Golden Escalator in Trump Tower. The press was there, expecting a circus. They thought it was a publicity stunt for a new season of The Apprentice. Donald stepped to the podium. He threw away his script. He spoke for 45 minutes. He talked about trade. He talked about China. He talked about immigration. And he said the words, "I am officially running for President of the United States, and we are going to make our country great again." The experts laughed. The Huffington Post decided they would only cover his campaign in the entertainment section, next to the Kardashians. He has a 1% chance, the data scientists said. But Donald Trump understood something the experts didn't. He understood anger. He traveled to places politicians ignored. He went to West Virginia. He went to rural Ohio. He held rallies in airplane hangars. He didn't speak like a politician. He spoke like a construction worker. He was rude. He gave people nicknames. Low Energy Jeb. Little Marco. Crooked Hillary. It was shocking. But to people who felt forgotten by the system, it was refreshing. He was a human Molotov cocktail. Election night. November 8th, 2016. The world watched in shock. The blue wall crumbled. Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, states that hadn't voted Republican in decades turned red. At 2:30 a.m., Donald Trump walked onto the stage in New York. The billionaire playboy was now the leader of the free world. His presidency was 4 years of constant storm. Investigations, impeachments, Twitter wars. He broke every rule of the presidency, and he was loved for it, and he was hated for it. But the true test of a man is not how he wins. It is how he loses. November 2020, a global pandemic, a ruined economy. Donald Trump lost the election to Joe Biden. For a man whose entire identity is built on winning, this was a psychological death. He refused to accept it. He fought it. And on January 6, 2021, the Capitol was stormed. Donald Trump left Washington, D.C., not as a hero, but as an outcast. His social media was banned. His businesses were under investigation. The Republican Party wanted him gone. The experts wrote his political obituary. He is finished, they said. He will die in prison or in obscurity. But they forgot the lesson of 1990. You never count Donald Trump out. Part 7. The Bullet and the Fist. July 13th, 2024. Donald Trump is back. He is running for president again. He is facing 91 criminal charges. He has been convicted of a felony in New York. And yet, he is leading in the polls. He stands on a stage in Butler, Pennsylvania. He is wearing a white shirt, no tie, and his signature red MAGA hat. He turns his head to look at a chart on a screen. A bullet fired from an AR-15 rifle by a 20-year-old on a nearby roof. Tears through the air. Because Donald turned his head at the exact fraction of a second, the bullet misses his brain. It rips through the top of his right ear. Donald grabs his ear. He looks at his hand. It is red with blood. He drops to the ground. "Get down! Get down!" The Secret Service agents dive on top of him. A human mountain of bodies shielding the former president. More shots ring out. Screams from the crowd. A supporter in the stands is killed. The sniper is killed. For 1 minute, the world held its breath. Is he dead? Is history changed forever? The agents try to rush him off the stage. "We're clear! We're clear! Let's move!" They lift him up. His hair is messed up. His face is streaked with blood. His shoes have fallen off. He is vulnerable. He is an old man who just got shot. But in that moment of chaos, instinct took over. The instinct of the showman. The instinct of the fighter. He tells the agents, "Wait, wait." He forces them to stop. He looks for the crowd. He finds the cameras. He raises his right fist into the air. With blood running down his face, with the American flag perfectly framed behind him, he pumps his fist. And he mouths one word 3 times. Fight, fight, fight. It was the most powerful image in modern political history. In that second, the election was effectively over. Even his enemies watched in awe. A man who just took a bullet didn't run. He stood up and rallied his army. 4 months later, in November 2024, the comeback was complete. Donald Trump defeated Kamala Harris in a landslide. He swept the swing states. He won the popular vote. He became only the second man in history, after Grover Cleveland, to lose the presidency and then win it back. The man who was impeached twice, indicted 4 times, convicted of a felony, and shot in the head, was heading back to the White House. Part 8. Lessons from the Unbreakable. So, here we are. The story is told. But what does it mean for you? You may not want to be a billionaire. You may not want to be president. You may hate politics. But if you are a student of life, you cannot ignore the lessons of Donald Trump. Lesson 1. Resilience is a muscle. In 1990, he was $3 billion in debt. In 2020, he was a pariah. In 2024, he was bleeding on a stage. Most people let failure break them. Trump uses failure as fuel. He proves that it doesn't matter how hard you get hit. It matters if you can get back up. Lesson 2. Define your own reality. The world told him he was a kid from Queens. He decided he was the king of Manhattan. The world told him he was bankrupt. He decided he was just reorganizing. The world told him he couldn't win. He decided he would. Belief is the most powerful force in the universe. If you don't believe in your own story, nobody else will. Lesson 3. Action beats theory. While the city government talked about the Woolman rink for 6 years, Trump fixed it in 4 months. While the experts analyzed the election, Trump held the rallies. Don't talk, do. Lesson 4. Never, ever surrender. The only way to truly lose is to quit. As long as you are still breathing, as long as you can still raise your fist, you have a chance to win. This has been the story of the unbreakable Donald Trump. Love him or hate him, you will never forget him. What is the challenge in your life right now? What makes you feel like giving up? Remember the man who walked through the fire and came out holding the torch. Thank you for watching Peak English. We hope this deep dive helped you improve your listening, expand your vocabulary, and maybe, just maybe, ignited a fire in your soul. If you enjoyed this, please like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who needs some motivation. And tell us in the comments, what is the biggest failure you have ever survived? See you in the next video.